this is Erica, and for this screencast I'll be going over my extended inquiry project, my final draft, and go through some of the steps of how I went about editing this paper, what I hope for my reader to get from this paper, and then just kind of take you through the process of the whole thing. So the first thing I have here is the note to reader. This just includes the main feedback that I got back from Ms. Hoffman about what I should edit in my paper as far as the final draft goes. But with my very first draft that I created, the first feedback I got was from some of my classmates, and during that feedback period they told me that I needed to put more information into my paper. They weren't very clear about as far as what kind of information they wanted me to put in the paper, so in that way it wasn't helpful, but I was able to know some of what I needed to put in there because with my first draft I did it kind of as a last minute thing, so I left out intentionally a lot of information that was very relevant to my paper. So that was the first thing that I added, was that missing information. And then of course there was some grammar and spelling mistakes that needed to be fixed. Again, that was just from me rushing to get it done. With my second draft, I made those changes. I added in the missing information, went through and checked my grammar and spelling, and that was about it as far as the changes I needed to make for my second draft. And the feedback I got from my second draft was from Ms. Hoffman, and majority of that feedback was for me to include voice in my paper, which what she meant by that was to give it a little bit of substance and bring in some outside perspectives and information just to make my paper more interesting and more relevant. And I explained that all here in the note to reader, as far as the feedback she gave me and what I did to add that. Another one of the issues she found in my paper was that some of my sentences seemed to stand alone. They seemed kind of out of place, where there was really no context to that, so I had to go and add that as well, and I'll elaborate on that in a few minutes. But first we'll look at the voices that I added in my paper. I didn't have to alter anything in my first paragraph, which was introducing my topic and my inquiry question. And so the first place where I added information was here in this paragraph, which made this paragraph extremely long, but at the same time it was still worth it. I included information about the programs, the city abroad programs here at UNC Charlotte, and I did this to, again, like Ms. Hoffman said, add voice, and also it makes it more relevant to my readers, considering my readers are Ms. Hoffman and my classmates, so it makes it more relevant to them. It also makes my paper more interesting rather than just talking about something boring. I'm bringing in a bit of me and my own institution, so in that way it makes it interesting. It also kind of helps my paper flow a little bit better because it's giving another example outside of some random example that I either came up with or found on the internet. And another part of this paper that Ms. Hoffman added closer towards the end was that we had to have another, I guess, media to put into our paper. So again, to add to the voice and to add that extra media here, I put a YouTube video of a UNC Charlotte student who actually did study abroad. She went to London, so she just reflects on where she went, why she went, and some of the things that she learned, and it includes some pictures from her travel, so again, makes it more personal and it makes the paper more interesting, more fun to read. One of the sentences here I had to elaborate on. This was an example of where Ms. Hoffman said that the sentence stood alone. It originally it just read as, during a national public radio broadcast, the host, Tom Gilton, said that the students who studied abroad were mostly white and female. And to add on that, I gave a little bit more about the interview. I had put the title, who the host was, who he interviewed, just to give it more context, and then I expanded more on what he said and added the response from the person who was interviewed, so that makes it a quote that's easy to follow, and again expands on that original sentence so that the reader is able to understand exactly where I was trying to go with putting that information in there, that they were mostly white and female, rather than just saying it and not giving it any kind of background or evidence to support it. And as I mentioned before, some of the issues that Ms. Hoffman had in my paper as well were some of my sentences standing alone, again, not having any context. What I found as I was going through my paper, I did elaborate or touch on most of these sentences in either earlier or later sentences in the paragraphs they were in. So they just really were not in the right place to be elaborated on. So I did move quite a few sentences around. This is an example of one of them. I've actually moved this further up in the paragraph so that it helps the paragraph itself flow, let the ideas flow a little bit better to make it easier to understand. And another example here, the sentence, originally I just put that they said these people were culturally sensitive, which I feel like I elaborated a bit in the sentence beforehand, but at the same time I can see where Ms. Hoffman believed that I didn't, so I added a simple definition just to give it, again, a little more context when reading, let that idea flow a little bit easier. And then again here, I moved some of the sentences down to let them, so that these sentences make more sense, this paragraph makes more sense. And I actually did have to make this another paragraph just because the paragraph it was a part of originally was very long. It took up about a page and a half, so I decided to split that, which worked because it split some of the ideas, and it wasn't just one long run-on paragraph, so it makes it easier to read, a little bit easier for the reader so they don't get bored. And that was about it as far as the changes that I made. I did have to change my works cited page at the end. I had that formatted incorrectly. I didn't realize that my works cited had to be double-spaced. I thought that that was just, I don't know, maybe it's because my entire paper was double-spaced. I don't know, but it does flow well with the rest of my paper. So that's it as far as my edits for this paper.